Okay, we're good. Ms. Moran, are you online to join us?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. That's true. It is. Like, I feel like you're the loudest one of all of us. So, okay. If we are good to go, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today is Tuesday, August 25th, 2026. And this is the special. I love hearing myself talk. Okay. Thank you for joining us. This is a special meeting for the Litchfield Elementary School District Governing Board. I hereby call this meeting to order. The first item on the agenda will be the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please stand and join us. Thank you. Next, we will take a moment of silent reflection. But as we do, we ask that you please keep the prior family in your thoughts. We recently lost a student last week in a bike accident, and they were known throughout the community, being in a couple of our schools, as well as having his mother be a teacher in our district, and also participating in sports, which had them connected to even more families and students across our district. So we just ask that you keep all of their loved ones in your thoughts as they navigate this very difficult time. Okay. Next, we are going to move on. We have no public speakers today, so we will do the adoption of the agenda and consideration of consent agenda. Ms. Wallace, did you have anything you wanted to pull from consent?
No, thank you.
Ms. Moran?
No, thank you.
Okay, if somebody would like to make a motion.
I will move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Having a motion from Ms. Moran and a second from Ms. Wallace, I'll call for the vote. Ms. Wallace?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. We will move on now to our action items. The first item will be approval of out-of-state travel request to attend the RTM West Education Congress. This will be presented by Dr. Stone.
President's item of governing board members, Director Montoya and I were asked to come out and present at the CIO Congress in Santa Clara in October. And they gave us an opportunity to choose a couple of different topics, and one that we've been able to utilize and replicate here or with other districts around when the budget shrinks, how do district leaders continue to find ways to make it work? We have both presented on this topic before at other forums, and so we'd love to continue to put the district's name in the spotlight and share our expertise that we've gained over the last few years with districts from across the country.
Ms. Wallace, did you have any questions or comments about this?
I do not. Congratulations on being asked to speak.
Ms. Moran?
No questions. I like the subject matter and it's a short conference, not too far away. So yeah, I'm in favor.
I don't have any questions. I think it's great. Anytime we can get our name out there is good. So if somebody would like to make a motion.
I move to approve the out-of-state travel request.
I will second.
Having a motion from Ms. Wallace and a second from Ms. Moran, I'll call for the vote. Ms. Wallace?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes.
Thank you.
We will move on now to the next out-of-state travel request. This will be by Dr. Davidson, I think. So,
thank you, President Zaidama and members of the board. This request is very similar to Dr. Stone's in that Dr. Benjamin and I have been participating in the ERDI research symposiums over the last few years. They did reach out to us as well to see if Jennifer and I would be willing to host some roundtable activities. And so certainly with your approval and blessing tonight, we'll be able to move forward with some possible items around superintendent and governing board relations and or community engagement on behalf of the School Connect model. So those are a couple of things that we've been proposing and having conversations on. So I'll stand for any questions. Thank you.
Ms. Wallace?
I don't have any questions, but these, all these zeros in here is really awesome that they are willing to cover so much. So that's very exciting.
Ms. Moran?
Yeah, I agree. Not only is again, appreciate the subject matter potentially and the facilitation, but the low cost compared with what it would cost otherwise is obviously favorable.
No question, same thing. I like that we get to get our name out there, and I think you two are great people to do that. So if there's nothing else, somebody wants to make a motion.
I move to approve the out-of-state travel for the National Council of Senior Leaders Conference.
I will second.
Having a motion from Ms. Wallace and a second from Ms. Moran, I'll call for vote. Ms. Wallace?
Yay.
Ms. Moran?
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. Okay, we are going to move on to a whole lot of policy stuff now. We will start with our first one, Dr. Davidson.
Thank you, President Zaidama and members of the board. As we go through this policy, I just wanted to make note that our trust policy does allow the board to hear from from our administrative team on the policy changes as a read one. And also, if the board so chooses, they could choose to adopt said policy at the same time or through an action. So that's why I just wanted to make sure our board members tonight realized it looked that certain way. So it's a combo package up to the board, depending on how they want to move forward. So our first one tonight is policy 1-302, governing board meetings and open meeting law requirements. Just a couple of changes in the policy that we wanted to highlight. The first thing is around making certain that we do regularly post our times and locations of the meetings, and that we're very specific about those exact things based on the calendar. The second item is around items that should not be in consent. In particular, items that, and I would just say this is wise practice anyway, when you're dealing with money, in particular in this case, anything that would require taxes on the community, making certain that that is out in the public, not in a consent agenda. Those are the primary changes, Madam President and board members, but I'll stand for any questions as the board considers adoption. Thank you.
Ms. Wallace?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Ms. Moran?
I don't have any questions on this policy, but I guess we have not had a chance as a board to talk about whether we want to stick with our 2 chances to read or before we pass policy. That obviously is not a separate agenda item tonight, so I'm not sure how to proceed.
So we approved that change in the agenda previously or not in the agenda, sorry, in our policy previously that we could do the one read, I believe. But
Yes.
that's
Yes,
why it's
Yeah, we
in
approved
here.
the policy, but we didn't talk as a board whether we were okay with that, because historically we've always given the public, more of a chance to have any input before we just, put these policies out there and then 48 hours later approve them.
So we don't have to approve them. That's one of the reasons tonight that we had it as a possible action. So we absolutely can just do these as a read tonight if that's what Ms. Wallace also wants to do. It was just an option. If we wanted to approve them, we could, but we can just bring them back at the next meeting as a action item again.
I feel like some of these, though, personally, no one is going to argue with. Like, I don't think anyone in this particular one would care that we were going to not put things in a consent agenda for this particular one.
I feel like it's more of a consistency for me personally, because different people might have different opinions on that. So I'm just one board member. So I have always erred on the conservative side of allowing the public or staff or anyone else who might have input on our policies to be able to give that input and feedback. And I think giving a little more time allows that, but I'm just one vote, so it doesn't matter to me.
So I think that in order to have everybody have an opinion on that, maybe tonight we'll just do, if it's okay with you, we'll just do all of these as a first read and we'll bring them back next time. And then we can add that as a discussion at the next meeting to formalize what we want to do for that, if that
Sure.
works.
And I
Okay.
believe last time we just then after the first read, they were just in the consent agenda afterwards. So it wasn't a separate conversation again.
Yes. So that's what we'll just do. So we'll just do these as a first read today, then if that's okay, since they're possible actions. Do we
Yeah,
need to do
That's fine with me.
anything,
I don't have any questions on that.
Ms. Contra, do we need to do anything? Since they're possible actions, we don't have to, right? Okay. Okay, so then we will just move through these items then as first reads.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. The next one, which is listed as 7.4, this is policy 2-101, duties of the superintendent. And there's just a few things that were added to this policy through the trust. Things that were just in some cases also moved and put into various sections. One that allows the executive director of human resources along with the superintendent to continue to provide preliminary notices of inadequacy of classroom performance. So we did list that position in the policy. There's some other things around superintendent being able to close schools. Certainly, if that needs to happen, that would continue with our governing board president as it has. But just a few things that were highlighted there. The biggest thing that we chose to not accept, it was seen as an option. We did take it off of the policy around a weapons detection system. Currently, Litchfield Elementary does not have its own weapons detection system. And I'm not aware of future conversation around that yet either. So if that were to come to fruition or something we needed to bring back, we certainly would. But other than that, we did remove this section from policy. So I'll stand for any questions.
Ms. Wallace,
No questions.
Ms. Moran,
No questions.
no questions. Okay,
Thank you.
then we will move on to 7.5, and this is going to be Dr. Benjamin, right?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the governing board. I'm bringing forward policy 1-401, which is parents, legal guardians, rights and education. The trust has updated an ARS code. That's really all that changed. It was ARS 15-160.03. It is now ARS 15-160.04. So the only thing that has changed in this was just the ARS code, and we are accepting it as is. Additionally, with that came a procedure that we provided to you in a Friday update around the parent legal guardians for parental involvement. And the procedure had asked for the district to choose how we were including parents in education. And the option that we're going with is one that we've been continuing to use, which is allowing for survey and comments and of course opportunities to be on site councils and for different activities and parent involvement. But the survey and comments is where we can get all of our families' voices heard.
Any questions, Ms. Wallace?
No questions.
Ms. Moran?
No questions.
No questions. Okay, we will move on to 7.6. This will also be Dr. Benjamin.
This one is policy 4-204, which is mandated reporting. The changes here is that we must report immediately and that's based on ARS 15-514. All mandated reporters have a duty to report as outlined in ARS 13-3620 and have direct knowledge that a minor is or has been the victim of abuse, neglect, and report immediately to the Department of Safety. And we also immediately report to our police department jurisdiction. So this is the training that we have been doing and will continue to do. It just now states it in our policy. Additionally, if there is any type of injury, it needs to be reported to the supervisor immediately. That was language similar. It just changed it a tiny bit in there, but I will stand for any questions on 4-204.
Ms. Wallace?
No questions.
Ms. Moran?
My only question for potential clarification is, I know that the mandatory reporting requirement also extends to board members. I have never received specific training on that. I don't know if other board members have, or if it's something that we should consider. I don't know if that would be part of policy or just a best practice.
That's a great question, and we can absolutely add that to a future agenda item. It is a requirement that the board does do mandatory reporting. Last year, when this policy came up, Dr. Doozy spoke a little bit about it, but it was definitely not a thorough professional development opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
I do not have any questions. So we will move on now to 7.7, and this will also be Dr. Benjamin.
I have policy 5-402. This is the Department of Child Safety Interview and Custody. This basically says that the district will not prohibit a DCS caseworker from speaking to any school employee, contractor, or volunteer. This is new information. We've not ever had that part of it. If DCS asks questions, typically the principal would be available. And now they're saying that any employee or volunteer who might have information would be required to share. So that is new for us. Access to records based on Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, the FERPA law, DCS caseworkers shall have access to educational records. That is something that we've always provided them. If they've asked for any information based on that child, we have given it because it has been an ARS code that we've been required to.
Ms. Wallace, any questions?
No questions.
Ms. Moran?
No questions.
I don't have any questions either. Okay, we're going to move on to 7.8. That'll be Dr. Benjamin also.
I'm going to go ahead and do this one. So,
Sorry.
Madam President, policy 5-410 is interscholastic athletics. This policy is already in place. I'm really truly looking it over. There are just a handful of grammar changes. And then there's also one date that was listed. Then that date has already passed. So that date has just been removed from the policy. So we would like to recommend to keep this as is. If you have any questions.
Ms. Wallace, any questions?
No questions.
Ms. Moran?
No questions.
I also have no questions. We're going to move on to 7.9. This says Mr. Vaughn, so. Okay.
Madam President, members of the governing board, can you hear me?
Good evening.
Okay, perfect. The first policy I'll talk to you about tonight is 1-105, and it relates to conflict of interest. Previously, this was a policy that only applied to governing board members, and what they're doing here is consolidating requirements to make it clear that the rules that apply to governing board members are the same that apply to employees. I'll stand for any questions on 1-105.
Ms. Wallace, any questions?
No questions.
Ms. Moran, any questions?
No questions.
I don't have any questions either. So we will just move on to the next item on the agenda, which will also be Mr. Vaughn.
All right, this next policy, 3-102, relates to student activities primarily and other revenue we collect as a school district. It's really putting into policy things that we already do, such as the board pre-approving a list of student activity fundraisers. I'll stand for any questions you have on that.
Ms. Wallace?
No questions.
Ms. Moran?
No questions for me.
No questions. We can move on to the next one.
All right. Our next policy that I'll talk to you about tonight is 3-103, expenses and payroll. This similarly essentially covers items that we already do and relates to the processing of our payroll and accounts payable checks or vouchers. It also states that we will follow the requirements that we've always had to follow around travel reimbursements. And it does add a requirement for the board to authorize food and beverage purchases as it relates to feeding our employees. In the consent agenda tonight, you approved a more detailed list of language around that requirement. And essentially, it won't cause any change in our operations, but it does make it clear that we only feed our employees when it is advantageous to the district. We've had that language in our contracts for many, many years, but the state has expanded that requirement to make it clear. I'll stand for any questions on 3-103, expenses and payroll.
Ms. Wallace,
No questions.
Ms. Moran.
No questions.
I have no questions either. So moving on to the last one I think you have, Mr. Vaughn.
All right. Our last policy that I'll talk you through tonight is 3-108, a topic that we all thoroughly enjoy called audits. It essentially says that the governing board will approve the CPA firm that will conduct the financial audits and the contract that goes with it. You hear from our auditors each year anyway, so this just expands that practice a little bit more. I'll stand for questions on 3-108 audits.
Ms. Wallace,
No questions.
Ms. Moran.
No questions, but I will say you can't see my face or you couldn't hear me, but I really appreciate the accounting humor that you tried to add to this policy.
You know, Michael, he's a very funny guy. So I have no questions either. And with that, we have gotten through all of these really fun policy changes that we are going to be approving at our next meeting. And that means we have completed our meeting very quickly, guys, but I do need a motion to adjourn, and our boys are not here today. So
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I will second.
having a motion from Ms. Wallace and a second from Ms. Moran, I'll call for the vote. Ms. Wallace,
Yay.
Ms. Moran.
Yay.
I'm also a yay. Motion passes. Thanks for joining us. This meeting is adjourned.